Good afternoon, family. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you are new here, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of losing 300 pounds. If you'd like to join the family, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Also, click on the bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos. If you'd like to participate on the discussion, you can join me most weekdays where I go live around 4 p.m. Central Time. Today was a little bit later. It's about 4:45 Central Time. But if you'd like to reach out to me outside of the Discord or outside of the YouTube, you could consider joining the Discord I've created. There's a link for that down in the description below. Also down in the description below is a link to a Pinterest board. A lot of times people will ask me what meals I am eating or the foods that I'm enjoying as I work towards my weight loss goal. And that Pinterest board is a great place for you guys to see the different meals and recipes that I have been enjoying. Let me see here. Today is day 947 of my challenge to lose 300 pounds. I'm just a few days away from 950 days. That's amazing. So far, I've used a combination of extended water fasting and a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet to lose over 250 pounds so far. If anybody has any non-scale victories, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. If you have any on-scale victories, I love hearing those as well. If you are succeeding with your diet, let us know what you're doing to succeed. If you're struggling, let us know what's happening. Maybe we can help you out. And at the end of the day, what are some things that you are doing that will make staying on your diet easier than the alternative? Let's go ahead, switch over to the main screen here. A few people checking in. Pretty Girl's mom, Plants Only Munchers, Tennyson Yoga Girl, Janet. Hello, everybody. We have Kareen. Hello. Hope you're doing great today. I think it's a new name I haven't seen before. Thanks for joining us. Amy. Hello, Amy. Hope you're doing great today. Carrie says she is here, but she's driving the kids around and she is listening. Janet says whiskers. Yes, last night I realized I didn't shave. I usually shave before I go to bed. At night I'll shave and take a shower. And yesterday I realized I had not shaved. I'll have to take care of that in the next couple days. But it's a lot more work to shave than it is to not shave. And so I spent years of my life not shaving, making things as easy as possible. So I do not believe that I streamed on Friday. So let me go ahead and see what I had for photos since I streamed last. No, not a problem, Karen. Thanks for Corinne. Is it Corinne? Thanks for checking it out. Let's see here. We're going to go ahead and go over all of the food that I ate for the past week here. Let's see here. Karen is good. Karen, awesome. That's great. Well, it's great to have you here, and let us know about yourself, and we'd love to have you here. So let me go ahead and pull up food since last week. So for dinner last Thursday night, we had some Spanish rice for dinner. Then Friday, we had our standard oatmeal for breakfast, followed by some broccoli. Then, I didn't talk about it. I was going to talk about it today. So Friday, Carrie ended up, a lot of times when we order our vegetables and our fruits, we get them from Walmart, and we don't really pay attention or we don't focus too much on whether or not we're getting things that are organic or not organic. And Carrie went to order some of the golden potatoes that we like to have, and they did not have any more of the ones we normally order. So we ended up getting some organic golden potatoes, and it's that was my lunch on Friday. It looks like there's 9 potatoes in that bowl, but they were all very small potatoes. So lots of nutrition packed into little tiny potatoes there. So I ended up having 9 potatoes for lunch on Friday, mixed with a bag of broccoli, and it was good. And there's definitely a difference between, you know, the consistency of like organic and non-organic as far as those potatoes went. But yeah, I enjoyed that on Friday. Then dinner Friday evening. Oh, I'm gonna mess this up. This is a like a bourguignon. I'm gonna say bourguignon, something like that. But yeah, we had more of those organic potatoes. So I had 9 of them for lunch, and then I had a big pile of them for dinner here. And so that was dinner on Friday. There, I got some other off-topic photos here. So then on Saturday, let's see, we go to the same breakfast we always have. A little bit darker picture there, but that is our savory oats with a mix of oat groats, steel cut oats, some mushrooms, onions, spinach, garlic, a little bit of lemon juice, all kinds of wonderful flavors, and then the broccoli. So then what else do we have here? I don't know what this is a photo of. It's just me talking. All right. And then Saturday for lunch, I had leftovers from the dinner on Thursday. This was the Spanish rice that we had on Thursday. So I had that for my lunch on Saturday instead of potatoes. I felt like I was cheating on my potatoes by having rice for lunch on Saturday. But we had that leftovers for lunch on Saturday. Janet says, how do you get the pictures from your phone to show on the live screen of your computer? So that is a bunch of technical stuff there. You're asking me. So I don't know what kind of setup you're using, but what I am, I'm streaming from some software that is called Streamlabs OBS. And so I am able to, I use this Streamlabs to kind of put everything on my screen. So like if I take this away, this I can let me get a hold of it. Like this thing here, I can move this around wherever I want. So it's like on the screen. So I use Streamlabs, and then I also use a program that I have downloaded on my phone called Elgato Streamlink. And so I have an app on my phone, and I'm using software on my computer that they are linked together. So the and so I'm able to go through my phone and do screen capture and then send it to the computer. So it's kind of some technical stuff. And depending on what you're using, there might be other solutions, but on yeah, there's other ways to do it, but that's just the way I had figured out to do it years ago. It might not be the best way, but your phone, like if you have an iPhone, I have to pull down the top right-hand corner, and then I click on the record button and do a bunch of stuff to do that. I guess I can kind of show you. Well, anyways, Janet says, that's so cool. Does it cost something? No, Streamlabs OBS is free. I believe the Elgato app that I downloaded on my phone was free as well. But Yeah, that's what it has. So you said you have a Windows, HP, and a Samsung phone. So I imagine that if it's what's it called? Elgato Screen Link is what I believe is yeah, that's the software that I use. So then Screen Link sends it to the Streamlabs OBS. So so yeah, but yeah, that was something that when I first started this, was trying to figure out how to video myself weighing in live as opposed to recording my weigh in and then doing that. So that's where I got that from. So yeah, you just been going live through YouTube. And I could do that as well. I don't know. So the reason why I use the Streamlabs is so I can have these overlays. So I can have the scenes, you know, and then I can switch from that scene to this scene, or I have another scene. I don't know what's on the background. So hey, Rebecca's checking in, just saying hello, Rebecca. Hope you're having a great day and you had a great weekend here. Let's see. But yeah, the Streamlabs OBS, it's a real popular software that's streaming, you know, that allows you to do some things. And it also allows, like, if you wanted to have more than one camera, I could have more than one camera. I can change the angles. If you look at the framing between this one and the framing here, it's a little bit different. You know, so you can do lots of things on all your scenes, or, you know, something that, for what I've watched some of your videos, like you could have a screen that mutes your mic when you're blending stuff, you know, and then it could even say something across the blending in progress, be back in a minute, you know, because like I have my be right back screen that mutes all of my audio and takes the video away and things like that. You could still have your video up, but just the audio muted. Anyways, it's fun software. There's a lot more to it than what I even play with as well. So let's get back to food here, since I got lots of food photos. Let's see. So Saturday was leftover Spanish rice for lunch, and then dinner we had the taquitos that Carrie has been making. I screwed up. That's the thing I moved while I was showing you stuff. There we go. We had taquitos. Carrie has been making these. These were from the Well Your World. It was a recipe that she got. And so we had these taquitos for dinner on Saturday. Sunday, let's see here. Yesterday, oatmeal for breakfast. And then lunch was potatoes and broccoli. Went back to the potatoes and broccoli, so only missed a day of that. And then, give me 1 second here. I just realized I got to do something. All right, I'm back. Sorry. So this was lunch on Saturday. Pretty standard lunch for us. And then dinner last night was a new recipe that we had not had before. It did not photo the best, but this was, I think, another recipe that Carrie got from Well Your World. This is brown rice, and then there is it's a TVP, or textured vegetable protein mix, that's kind of like a ground beef that was real spicy, and then there is a cashew sauce on the top of it there. This is kind of everything when it's mixed together. Had a really great flavor, different flavor than I have kind of been getting used to, I guess. You know, when we have our rice, it's pretty much always, for me, it's almost always Spanish rice. So to have rice and have it have a different flavor is great. So that was dinner yesterday. Today we had standard oatmeal breakfast, broccoli for lunch, and then broccoli and potatoes. Or I'm sorry, that was my breakfast: broccoli and potatoes for lunch here. So you can't really see the potatoes in there, but I assure you they are there. Karen says here, she's got a question when I have a minute. I got all kinds of minutes. Do you have a video that talks a little bit more in depth about the beginning of your journey, or can you point me to a good time frame of your videos? So I would say anybody that's looking for more about the diet stuff or the change in the eating, then you'd probably want to look at like day 45 to day 65 was the first beginning days of me eating this diet. The first 45 days of this challenge was a lot of focus on my fasting because that's what I started off doing. So if you're not interested in doing water fasting, then, you know, maybe the first 45 days won't help you with that regard. But I was 45 days, you know, it was the first 45 days of my diet. It was just a pretty extreme diet that I was doing. But as far as eating this way, I would say those like day 45 and on. And then, you know, I'd have to go through and look at my videos, but I know it was probably about 3 weeks in. So that would be like day 60 to day 70, is when I really started to adapt to the flavors and some of the recipes that we were eating. Prior to that point, I wasn't a big fan of, and then my taste buds adapted, and then I really started to enjoy the foods that we had. You know, I guess any of like, so if you're searching YouTube, it's hard to see some of my content because I do live streams. And so if you go to my channel, they're going to show you a lot of my videos. So if you want to see the live streams, you have to click on the live tab, and then you're going to have to scroll way down to the early ones. But if you go to my videos, you might be able to see some of my earlier videos. Maybe I talk about some of it, but if there's anything specifically you want to ask me about the beginning days, I can do my best to answer the questions. But that was part of the reason why I did the channel the way I've done it, is that I wanted to have record of how I was feeling on those days. So people could look back and see, you know, kind of compare for those days, how they're feeling. Because I saw lots of YouTube channels of people that were talking about their success afterwards. And, there's a lot that gets omitted. You know, it's real easy for me to say, hey, I lost 250 pounds, you know, through water fasting and a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet. But that is a 10-second synopsis of the last 2.5 years of my life. Like, there's a lot that went in to eating that whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet. There's a lot that went in to that 250-pound weight loss. And there was a lot of times where I gained a little bit of weight and then lost a little bit of weight and then gained and then lost. And so it's not as linear as maybe sometimes it feels when people get on after the fact. So if you do have questions, I hope I can answer them with that same mindset I guess I would have had when I was first starting. But it's hard for me to be in that because I'm in a very different position than I was when I started, which is awesome. I'm happy I'm in this position. This is the position I wanted to be in when I started, but it is different. Okay, Kathy says they don't use TVP. So maybe it wasn't Well Your World recipe. I'm not sure where she got it from. Because I think it was TVP and not bulgur wheat or anything like that. So, but yeah, there's a good chance that they don't use TVP in their recipes. And I was just mistaken on the source of that recipe. Karen says you admire me. Such a great accomplishment and you need the inspiration. Well, I hope that I can inspire you to get started. It's tough and it's tough to motivate yourself to get going, but it's amazing once you get going and you can stick to it. And you have to be patient with yourself. You know, I think that is something that so many people get caught up on trying to be perfect when they first start a diet, because perfection in their mind is the only way that's going to get them to their goal. And you really have to give yourself the grace of I guess I've said it in the past, like if you were teaching a 6-year-old kid how to ride a bike and it took 3 weeks to teach him how to ride a bike, you would be patient much longer than if you were trying to teach yourself how to ride a bike. And the same thing with a diet. If you were teaching somebody how to diet, you would have lots of sympathy. You would have lots of patience with them. But when it's yourself that you're pushing, you don't give yourself any sympathy and you don't give yourself patience. So you quit very early. So that would be one thing, is don't get too locked into that perfection or letting that perfection keep you from continuing on. I will say that the closer you get to being perfect on your diet, the better results you're going to see. So the drive should be to become better. It shouldn't be, okay, I screwed up, then it's okay if I screwed up because I didn't gain any weight. And then a week later, you allow yourself to do that same screw up. You have to learn from things like that. Right. Karen says you want to go 100 miles per hour, but you have to remember that 50 might be better. Likely not a great success otherwise. Absolutely. It's, again, going back to my mentality when I started this challenge was, I wasn't going to do all of the things I did last time. I did start with a very extreme calorie restrictive water fast, but the goal was sustainability and being able to do it for 3 years. And I knew that if I started off saying, okay, I'm going to eat 1,000 calorie diet, I'm going to work out twice a day, I'm going to do YouTube videos to keep myself accountable, I'm going to, do all of this stuff, everything that you think of is everything that needs to be done. And you get out and you start doing that, and then you can't keep up with it. And then you get upset that you're not able to keep up with all of these plans that you put in front of yourself. So when I started this challenge, it was to lose the weight. It was to do it through diet. Like that was a big focus of mine, was to try to lose the weight through my diet and not have to worry about taking pills or being on a program or having to go to the gym and do regular workouts, and things like that. So yeah, you have to be willing to slow down. And there's an analogy actually I talk about a lot, and I don't know if it exactly pertains to this, but I had a college professor that when I was going to college, and actually it goes into my topic today actually pretty good about, is it worth it? There's something that we all do, this cost benefit analysis with every decision that we make. Our mind is making thousands of those decisions every hour that we don't even realize that it's making. But one of the things that we do is we give up our health for convenience. And the analogy I like to use is that this professor told us that we could eliminate all the traffic deaths on the highway, or we could greatly reduce the deaths that happen on the interstate. And we could do it by implementing just a couple policies when it comes to interstate travel. And one of them would be that we would make the maximum speed on any interstate or highway 15 miles an hour. And then we also implement that any vehicles that are on those roadways have to be built with 1-inch steel walls on all sides. And if we did those two things, we could eliminate most traffic deaths. If the traffic is only going 15 miles an hour and we're essentially all driving in tanks, then they're not going to have all these fatal accidents. But people would lose their mind if we made them go from being able to drive 70 or 80 miles an hour down to 15 miles an hour. And so I use that a lot when I think of what my diet, and that I was on that highway driving 80, 90 miles an hour, or in some cases with my diet, probably driving 100 or 120 miles an hour down the highway. And now I've changed the inputs. I've changed the rules of what I'm putting in my body. So now I'm driving down the highway at 15 miles an hour. Everybody's blowing by me and I'm waving, and I'll say, I'll see you down the road, because my hope is that by driving at 15 miles an hour, that I'm going to be able to drive this bus for another 60 years. Before, when I was driving 120 miles an hour, I was lucky if I was going to make it 1 or 2 more years. And so that is something that I really think about when I think about the cost benefit of things, and that I was giving up my health for convenience. All of the foods that I was eating were quick and easy foods that were very dopamine stimulating, but they don't, they didn't help my future. They didn't help with my health. Karen says a Doug Lisle thing. I'm not sure what thing was the Doug Lisle thing, but I do love Doug Lisle. And I think that, yes, I think he does lots of great teachings. So the thing I was going to talk about today, and it kind of goes into this, is it worth it? I was listening to a video of somebody who was talking about how they had given in on their diet. They were eating a different diet, but they were eating, a diet nonetheless to try to lose weight. And they were at a party for Memorial Day here in the States. It was a long weekend, so people get together, and they were hanging out. And at the end of the party, they ended up having some cupcakes or some cake, and just things that weren't on their diet. And they were talking about how, they were disappointed, but it was okay because they'd been doing so good. I think we all do that. We do that so much. We try to take some equity out of what we've been doing to justify eating some junk food. But when you start your diet, that cost benefit is in such a position where you're not going to cheat on your diet. Because when I started this diet, the benefit for me was to not die. And so any cost that it was going to take for me to not die was a decision I was going to do. So if it meant I had to water fast for 40 days, I was going to water fast for 40 days. If it meant I had to switch to eating a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet, it meant I was going to do that, because the result in my mind of not doing that was death. And so I did that cost benefit, and I decided to start this diet. But over time, your body continually recalculates that cost benefit analysis. And so eventually not dying no longer becomes the motivation or the benefit of eating this diet, because I'm so far away from that person who was almost dead. For me at 260 pounds, it would be very easy for me to justify eating anything, because that one item isn't going to make me 520 pounds from that one item. But your mind doesn't calculate, what if that one item is the catalyst for the failure of your diet? What if maybe that one item takes you from 266 pounds to 267 pounds? You're like, okay, well, I can just continue to diet and that 1 pound will come off. But if you were told at that moment that that one item that's going to add 1 pound today is going to cause you to fail your diet and cause you to gain 200 pounds back, then you wouldn't make that decision. But you're only thinking about the 1 pound or the half pound, or maybe I'll be able to deal with it because I didn't eat very much this week, but you're constantly doing that cost benefit analysis. And eventually that cost, it reduces, and then you allow that food to be okay. If you allow that food to become okay, then that is always going to be a cost worth giving up. Like if it was worth it today, let's say that I make the decision to eat off plan. Let's say cupcake, because I used that example earlier. So if I do that cost benefit analysis and I look at the fact that I've lost 250 pounds and it's just one cupcake, what's the difference? And then I give in and I eat that cupcake. A week later, when that same cost benefit analysis comes up, I'm going to likely make the same decision I made the week prior, unless something catastrophic happened within that week that, that cupcake caused me to gain 12 or 15 pounds, and maybe a week later I rebound. But if it only causes me to gain a half pound, a quarter pound, or a negligible amount of weight that I don't notice or I don't attribute to that item, then the next time it comes up, I'm going to make the decision to give in again. And they do talk about that, I think, a little bit with the Pleasure Trap book, in that social experiment he talks about with going to a family function and your aunt has the casserole that you love, and she pushes that casserole on you. And if you give in, then the next time you get together, she's going to be able to get you to give in again, because your mind goes back and said, well, we did the cost benefit last time and we determined that it wasn't worth dealing with listening to her versus just eating the food. So then we'll do it again this time. And you have to realize you have to hold to that cost benefit analysis that you had when you started. If I went home tonight and ate a cupcake, I could justify it to myself today. But could I justify it to the 520 pound version of myself? The 520 pound version of myself that decided not to eat the cupcakes, that decided not to go to the fast food restaurants, that knew that they were on the brink of death because they were eating those foods. Could I convince that person to eat a cupcake? I couldn't then. I held to it for months and months. I held to the salt, oil, sugar-free diet. And I have, again, to the best of my ability in the last 8 months. And so you keep doing this cost benefit and you keep doing it and you keep doing it. And at some point that equation shifted. Like I could go back to eating some of the crap I used to eat, and I would, potentially stay the same weight I am now, or I wouldn't gain weight back immediately. I could make that decision, but I know that the second I make that decision that I've lost, and I've learned that over the last 950 days, because for the first 11 months of this diet, I was, in my mind, perfect. I was doing everything that I needed to do. Now, people would look at some of the things I was eating and say, well, you didn't need to have the Ezekiel bread or the avocado or the nut butters, but everything I was doing was on plan and I was sticking to it. And then 11 months in, I did that ratio. I did that cost benefit. We were out of town. We were celebrating a thing that was pretty good for our business, I guess, or for our nonprofit. Um, and I thought, what can it hurt, to have this item out one time? And if that would have been an isolated one moment thing, then that would have been it. And we'd be having a different conversation today. I would probably be at my goal weight already. But it didn't happen that way. That was kind of me opening up that floodgate, that cost benefit analysis. I said, okay, you know what? Salt, oil, sugar might be okay, and I let those things in. And then I spent a year fighting, putting that cat back in the bag and saying, finally putting together that it isn't worth that momentary pleasure. It isn't worth the delay that it has caused for my goals when I started. Again, it's if I were to, I guess anytime that you're tempted, anytime you're thinking about eating something, maybe look at it and say, what would the 520-pound version of myself have said? Maybe for you, it's the 300-pound version or the 200-pound version of yourself. But for me, what would the 520-pound version of myself be telling me right now? He'd be saying, don't eat the cupcake. Go make some broccoli. Go eat. I would be telling myself, go eat. Just eat different food. Don't eat the cupcake. Eat broccoli, eat spinach, eat carrots, eat oatmeal, eat rice, eat potatoes, eat red peppers and onions and mushrooms, eat legumes. There's so many things that you can eat. That's what my 520-pound version self would be telling me now, stick to the plan, stay on the diet, because 520 pounds is not any fun at all. So Karen here says, so many deals we make with ourselves. Absolutely. It's a constant, just going home. For a long time, I would try to make deals with myself on why I could stop at the gas station and grab a soda, and I had to realize that it's just thirst. You're just thirsty. You don't need a soda. You just need water. You just need to drink. And I don't lose the battle, but our kids have tortilla chips in the house. There's things in the house that I see them. There is an initial, those used to taste amazing. I wonder how they taste. But again, they're not going to taste any different than they did. And it's not going to be a taste that's worth giving up everything I've done to give into. And also, I have lots of options. I have all of the fruit hanging on our pantry door that I can eat that before I go to any of their snacks. I have to walk by food before I go to their food. So, let's see. And the other thing, I guess, that I was looking at with this kind of cost benefit analysis too, is that for years and years, I was taking out credit on my future health. I was taking out loans against the future version of myself so I could go to Taco Bell and McDonald's and Burger King and Texas Roadhouse and Red Robin and all the restaurants and the food, the pizzas, the Pizza Huts and the Papa John's. I was taking out credit to eat those things, to consume them. And I was getting fatter and fatter, and it was taking my health away, and it was taking years off of the end of my life. And I started this challenge, and I started to reverse that. I started to gain back that credit that I had put in. I feel like I went from being 39 years old, not sure if I'd make it to 40, to now I'm 41 years old, banking on making it to 82. And so I have pulled out so much of that credit, and I want to start building equity. I want to start gaining years that I wouldn't have gotten if I wouldn't have eaten this way. But what happens is that I took out all this credit on my health. And then for 2.5 years, you start taking out that credit, you get rid of that debt, and what people start to do is they start to look at that removal of debt as somehow being equity that they can tap into, and that's what happens. Like when you go to that party and you justify having that cupcake. I lost 5 pounds this week. I went to the gym 3 times. I whatever, did whatever thing. I hit my 100-pound milestone, whatever excuse you give yourself to have that cupcake, you start to look at the same effort that you used in the past week to get rid of that credit, to get rid of that outstanding debt you have, the years that you're taking off of your life. And then you get to that party and then you borrow it against it again. And you say, oh, well, it's okay if I have this cupcake because I did all that work. And it's like, well, you did all that work to get rid of the old credit that you owed. You didn't do all that work for the stuff that you did. Now you're not getting this for free because you did that work. That work was paying off the debt you owed from a year earlier. But we don't realize that. We look at that effort we did in the last week and say, I deserve something. I should get something for that. Well, you did. You got something for that when you were 25 years old. You got something for that 10 years ago. That effort that I had to do to stay on my diet this past week, I took that credit out when I was 25, 26 years old. So, and I want to keep taking the credit out, and if you do follow my earliest videos, I did, and I should resurrect it as I get to the end here. But, when I first started, I had this 1,000,000 calorie challenge. So I looked at the fact that I have 300 pounds to lose, and a calorie is about 3,500. I'm sorry, a pound of calories is 3,500 calories. So 3,500 times 300 is 1,050,000. And so when I started this challenge, I looked at my 300 pounds of losing weight was like having a bank account with 1,050,000 calories in it. And my goal was to spend that 1,000,000 calories in the 3 years. And so far, I guess I could do the math. So of the 1,050,000, let's see, I've lost 253 pounds, which ends up being 888,000 calories that I have put myself at a deficit. Kind of, it doesn't, the math isn't exactly that way, but if essentially I have 880,000 fewer calories that I'm carrying around than I had before. And so then that puts me at 161,000 calories away from reaching my goal of the 1,000,000 calorie challenge. But that was kind of something that when I first started this, it was great. It was fun when I was fasting, and I was like, oh, I just knocked off 4 pounds. And so that's 14,000 calories or less, not quite, but anyways. And so, yeah, I mean, look at the fat on your body like a bank account, and it's, and I'm just spending that money. It's Brewster's million. I got to get through the million calories and have nothing to show for it when I get to the end. So, uh, or no body fat to show for it when I get to the end. So, Pretty Girl's mom says you like that analogy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with you're taking the credit out, with the stop taking credit out, stop eating the junk food, stop, you know, pushing it off to the future version of yourself. I did that so much, and I would do that on a daily basis too. I would take out equity for later in the day. I'd be like, oh, you know what? I'll have McDonald's for breakfast because I'm going to go do a workout later, and it's like, well, you don't get to treat yourself for something you haven't done yet. And you shouldn't get to treat yourself. You already treated yourself. That's why I got in the position I was in, because I spent my whole adult life treating myself to whatever I wanted. So, yeah, the cost benefit, let me see. I just have a bunch of notes down here with it. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just realize that your body's constantly doing that equation. It's doing that math problem. And even though, your scenario, your situation changes, sometimes I feel like I have to hold myself to that same standard that I was holding to myself at when I first started. Because if I was holding myself at the standard that I'm currently okay with, then I would allow a lot of things to come in. I've mentioned it many times in the past that if I didn't lose any more weight and I spent the rest of my life at 266 pounds, I'd be extremely happy. But that's not the mindset I had when I started. I mean, maybe I did a little bit. I would have been happy at 520 to be 266. But when I started, it was to get to 220. It's not to get to 266. It's to get to 220. And I've allowed myself to give in to that cost benefit, and screw things up. And but it's about getting back and realizing what you're doing, and pushing it forward, and realizing too that, like, there's things that I'm never going to go back to, like the easy one that for me now is the animal products, like the meat and the cheese, the dairy, the eggs, all that stuff is very easy for me. Like I'm done with that. I've made that decision, and there's nothing that's going to cost benefit me into eating those products again. But the salt, oil, sugar, those are a lot tougher, because they're everywhere. It's very hard to avoid them. But if I can hold myself to that same standard that I was holding myself when I was on day 50 or day 70 or even day 100, then I will continue to get to that goal. I have to continue to use the playbook that I wrote when I started this, and not the one that I've kind of allowed myself to, the justifications that I allow myself to have. So, I think I'm going to get out of here for today. I don't have a whole lot more today. It is Monday. I should be live tomorrow. Then we will have our weigh-in on Wednesday. I will try to get shaved today so I don't have so many whiskers tomorrow. But yeah, it should be another good day. I didn't even really talk about this weekend. I did a lot of stuff this weekend. I got to talk about, I'm not going to leave yet. So if you thought I was leaving, haha, tricked you. So the thing I was going to talk about was on Saturday. Where's that at? Let me pull this up. So the one thing that I was going to talk about is here. So on Saturday, we were hanging out at the house, and Carrie had mentioned, so it was in the morning. I had to take my son to get dropped off for Boy Scouts because he went on a trip on Saturday. And then I was on my way back home from Boy Scouts, and I noticed that it was just a beautiful day, really nice. There was a lot of people out riding bike, and I was kind of like, I was kind of jealous of them getting to ride bike. I'd like to ride a bike maybe. And so then I got home, and Carrie had told me that we had table tasty down at the post office. And I thought, you know what would be real fun would be to hop on my bike and to ride to the post office. So I grabbed my helmet and a backpack, and I decided to head over to the post office. And this is really annoying me because my thing is not showing me that specific. Here we go. I figured it out. So on Saturday, I got home. I got my bike together, grabbed a backpack, and decided to go ride my bike to pick up the mail. So I live kind of out in the country. And so the reason why we don't have the mail delivered to our house, I don't think I talked about this on stream last week, was because in the winter, the county keeps knocking over our mailbox. And I got sick of putting the mailbox back up because they kept knocking it over with the snowplow. And then on top of that, anytime we would get a package delivered, they would drive down our driveway to deliver the package. And we have a very steep driveway. It's kind of a big hill. And they would tear up my driveway, especially if it was rainy or wet. So we decided to just get a post office box, and we would go check the mail on a regular basis. So anyways, Carrie told me that the table tasty was at the post office. So I was like, well, I guess I'll hop on my bike and I'll go for a ride to the post office. So this is from my Garmin app here. It tracked it. So the different spots here, it actually kind of goes into the speed and everything. I don't know if I want to show all that. So I ended up riding my bike. I got there and it was 3.2 miles when I got there. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. This is like right at a 5K distance from my front door to the post office is almost exactly a 5K. And then, so I was like, that's kind of cool. I'm going to do a kind of a 10K bike ride, or, 6.2 mile bike ride. So, I went down to the post office. So I get to the post office, and on my way, I get a text message from Carrie that says, hey, you might want to check the desk to see if there's a package at the desk. And I was like, okay. So I get there, and there's a tag that tells me to go to the front desk, and I get to the front desk, and the guy pulls up a package that is in a box that is like 2.5 feet wide by 1.5 feet deep by like 6 to 8 inches tall. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this box? Like, I rode my bike here. And so I asked the guy, I was like, hey, if I just pull the stuff that's out of this box, can you throw it away? And he was nice enough to do that for me. So then I opened the box up, and it's a huge box filled with brown paper and a single pair of mesh shorts. And I was like, this is insane, this huge box for a single pair of mesh shorts. But anyways, I grabbed our mail, grabbed the table tasty, grabbed the mesh shorts, shoved them all in the backpack, threw them on my back, and I rode my bike back to the house. And it took me, 37 minutes to do the 6.37 mile bike ride. I was amazed at the difference in riding a bike at 260 pounds versus riding a bike at 320 pounds. I knew it would be different. And it's a big reason why I quit running after I did the triathlon was that I felt like I was hurting myself more than helping myself by doing any running. But on the bicycle, at 266 pounds, I felt like I was a kid riding a bike again. It was crazy. And that was the other big topic I wanted to talk a little bit about was that, at some point, exercise and, doing, I guess, at a certain point, riding a bike or running and those things, they switched from being something that I would do to have fun to doing to being a burden, I guess. So, when I was a kid, we used to ride our bike on these same roads that I rode my bike on here. I would ride my bike to go to the gas station or go to my friend's house or go play, or we would ride our bike to the park. And it was to travel to different places. That's why we used our bike. But, or we would walk or jog or run, whatever we would do when we were kids. But then as I got older and I got into high school or junior high, those things switched from being fun focused to being personal fitness focused. And so really any time that I've ever run, it's been for time or for, as to get better at a competition or an event. When I did riding the bike last, or I guess it was a year and a half ago now, almost 2 years ago now, when I rode the bike last, it was for that triathlon. It was to get the best time possible. And it wasn't about enjoying myself. It was about the athletic performance of it. And I realized that has been that way for years now. Like that I've not gotten on a bike to just stroll around. And so that bike ride, I did at a decent pace. I think I was at 10 miles an hour is what it says here. I wasn't pushing myself. I was going up a long hill and I just kept dropping the gears down. And I wasn't worried about pushing myself or trying to keep the speed up or keep the pedal rotation at a certain thing. It was just hanging out, listening to the birds, riding and enjoying myself. And I had a lot of fun going to the post office on Saturday and just getting kind of a half-hour workout in that didn't feel like a workout. And it really showed me how much easier it is to ride a bike when you lose 60 pounds. And when I get down to 220, I'm looking forward to how much easier it's going to be when I get to that point. And as I get closer to that point, doing things like running or doing those should be easier as well. I haven't done any like sustained running in a while, but I have done some like jogging to just see how it feels, because it is different. Everything at 520 pounds was so difficult. And I don't know how I did it. If I were to have to grab a 250 pound backpack and throw it on my back and try to do anything right now, I don't think I could. I almost should go to the gym and just get a bar and put, that's funny, 250 pounds on it. Yeah. And just carry it around for a little bit. But yeah, that was something I wanted to talk about. I was a little bit sore, but not like workout sore from it. Like on Sunday, I kind of went back and forth about whether or not to go on another bike ride, but Sunday got pretty busy. So that did not end up being an option. But yeah, I wanted to show you guys that I went on a 37-minute bike ride to go to the post office. So, Karen here says, personally, you will always be vegan, but that gives a wide latitude. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of that. Yes, a non-scale victory. Riding the bike is definitely, a non-scale victory. Um, and I was nervous about the road that's outside of our house is decently busy. And so I was nervous about riding on that road. But it was actually not as bad as I thought. And I've actually ridden on it a couple times now in the last couple weeks. And the more I ride on it, I'm sure the more I'll get used to it. But part of the reason I got into the biking too is our town added some new bike paths. So I'd like to go ride their bike paths a little bit and enjoy those things as well. So that was the big thing I wanted to talk about, though, was exercise, riding my bike. I actually tracked it with my watch app, which is something that I haven't done in a long time, where I do the Garmin watch. The other thing, I guess I'll show you this because I think it's pretty slick. Oh, never mind. It's not on here now. So anyways, yeah, I've been, I was real happy with how this weekend went. I got a nice workout in. We got to play in the swimming pool a bunch. I've been keeping that going. I did a bunch of work on the swimming pool. If you guys have been following that, I did do a lot of work with keeping the pool up and running. My goal is to see how long I can keep the pool going before it turns green or gets dirty, or too dirty or anything like that. So I've been really focusing or working hard to keep that as something for my kids to play in and enjoy. And so we did get into the pool a little bit this weekend. But I think that was about it. That, I'm sure there's other stuff that I'll think to share later, but anyways, I am going to get out of here for today. I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening. I thank you so much for checking out my live streams and participating in the conversation. Karen, it was a pleasure to meet you today. I hope to see you more in the future. And if you guys have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button, make sure you click on the subscribe button down below. Also, click on the bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos. If you can hit the like on this video, I'd appreciate that as well. And if you have not started your diet yet, get started now. There's nothing coming up this week or this weekend that's more important than your health or your overall well-being. There's nobody that gets to their goals, looks back, and wishes they would have waited. Everybody wishes they would have started sooner. So get started right now, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow.